Hi everyone, my name is Teemu Arina. I'm from the Biohacker's handbook, and today we will focus on the gut, the source of everything when it comes to energy levels and awesome brain function and so on. It's like your second brain. If your gut is not functioning well, probably your brain is not working either, and your energy levels will be diminished. So a lot of people nowadays have gut problems because of modern lifestyle, stress, different things that are affecting gut microbiome and reduces the microbial diversity and so on. Probiotics are extremely popular supplements, and people are looking into solutions, both dietary interventions as well as supplementation, to get their system back to the basics. Now, I want to tell you a story, my own story of how I got into biohacking actually. So I'm a serial technology entrepreneur, and I was working really, really hard on everything related to my startups over 10 years ago. And one thing that I noticed after a while was that I started getting pain in the gut. Like when my stomach was empty, I felt a little bit of pain, and when I ate something, it went away. And so I didn't think too much about that. But then after a while, the pain was lingering even when I ate something and I had low energy levels and so on. And I did what many people do in that situation. I went to the doctor and I got prescribed some proton pump inhibitors. Proton pump inhibitors are reducing the production of stomach acid, and the idea is that it helps the wound in the stomach to heal. I got an ulcer basically, and that with that diagnosis, I took the medication and it took the pain away, but it didn't restore my energy levels. And so for a while I just felt fine, but the pain came back, and I went to the doctor. My medication had run out, and I got prescribed more of those proton pump inhibitors. And at that point, when I got that, the new medication I got was not as effective as the previous one. So I went online and I did what I'm good at, which is doing research and understanding what's going on in my system. So I had to look in the mirror and understand what's going on with my gut. And I first started looking at the medication itself, the proton pump inhibitors. And what I learned is that you're not supposed to take them all the time. Like at that point, I was taking it for months. And you have stomach acids for a reason, and if you use this type of medication that are reducing stomach acids in the long term, it will basically it can lead into bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. It can lead into fungal infections. There's many things related to it, and so what I did, I went really deep. I first started from the ulcers. I learned about inflammation. I learned inflammatory diseases and low-level inflammation and all these different things. And my hypothesis was basically that because of my lifestyle and stress and all that, what I was going through, my system was in an imbalance and a kind of a constant state of low-level inflammation, and the inflammatory disease, like a ulcer, was just a manifestation of that long-term effect. And so I decided to balance things, and I started learning how I can, reduce inflammation and first restore the functioning of the whole system. And the research led me to designing this gut healing protocol. And in this gut healing protocol, I had a very holistic approach. First, making sure that I sleep enough, 7.5 hours a night at least. You can see that this is done in 2012, so 10 years ago already. And I was looking into breathing techniques, so that's what cardiac coherence is here, meditation as well. So different breathing techniques to increase heart rate variability, and doing meditation on a regular basis to increase parasympathetic nervous system activation, which is important for gut function as well. So to reduce sympathetic tone and sympathetic nervous system activation. I was looking into hydration. In terms of food, I basically designed an anti-inflammatory diet. So the building block was to take out foods that are pro-inflammatory, that increase inflammation, then add in foods that reduce inflammation, and then look at gut microbiome and look at restoring, nutritional status and correcting nutritional deficiencies and so on. And I had certain supplements also that I was looking into on top of a proper diet. There are certain supplements that were key for gut functioning that I was getting in, and I mean probiotics, prebiotics, selenium, zinc, vitamin D, B vitamins, omega-3 oils, etc. And when it comes to gut herbs, I was looking into a lot of cabbage and broccoli and fermented sauerkraut and all that for the kabagin. So I read interesting studies about sulforaphane long before it was kind of cool and fashionable in the biohacking circles. I mean, biohacking even at that time was pretty early. And so if you look at the basic building blocks of this particular intervention, it was focus on recovery. It was an anti-inflammatory diet and nutrition, gut healing with prebiotics and probiotics and other supplements. And in terms of stress management, I was looking into breathing exercise, not going too over the board. And what happened when I started this, I would say also my diet was pretty much ketogenic because I reduced carbohydrate intake and I increased fiber and diversity of food items. And after 3 months, my pain was gone. And after 5 months, I noticed that when the summer was coming, my allergies also went away. So what happened with this anti-inflammatory diet, my immune system was not overreacting to external factors like pollen, for example, anymore. So since then, that was 10 years ago, now I haven't had situations where I would need an antihistamine. So it's very rare that I would get a serious reaction or a reaction at all. Like right now, it's pollen time and nothing. I don't need antihistamines. And so I learned a lot about gut, and I had been searching for a doctor who would know about gut health. And Dr. Olli Sovijärvi was the guy in Finland, and I booked appointment at his clinic, and that was like 4 months down the road. And at that point, I was already implementing my protocol. And the time when I had the time, I was already a healed man. So I was thinking, like, should I go and bother this guy? So I decided that, hey, I might cancel this. But in the end, like in the very moment, in the early morning, I decided, yes, I will go. I will just tell him that I'm a completely healed man, and I just want to tell what I did. And one of the key factors or components of the whole thing was all the self-quantification, quantified self-measurements that I did, lab tests, genetic tests, allergy tests, blood tests, self-tracking, including heart rate variability, sleep quality, all that. That was 10 years ago, long before Oura-ring, long before activity trackers were popular items or even available. I had to order a lot of these things long before personalized diagnostics was easily available. So I did all of that, and I went to his clinic and I told what I'd done. I showed the research, I showed the protocol, I showed the reasoning, the research papers, and the 20-minute appointment ended up being a couple of hours, and later on we became friends and we started writing the Biohacker's handbook. So that's how we met. And Olli is here. So Olli is nowadays a pretty pro expert also on gut health, and he has also an online course for it.
Wow, that was some introduction. I don't know what else to add, anything, but I was really astonished about Teemu's knowledge on the topic when he came to my appointment back in 2013. So your diagram or the model you described here was from 2012. So that was a very fruitful discussion, and we realized that we have both these kind of systemic and integral way of thinking things, whether it's gut health or anything else. And fast forward a couple of years, we finished with the nutrition part of the Biohacker's handbook, which involves a lot of material also around the gut and the gut health and the system. I think we're going to go through that a little bit here. And also that led to me running a course already back in 2014 about optimizing your gut. And I've actually run it over 6 years in Finnish, and now I think a little over 1 year or maybe 1.5 years. You know, time flies. I don't actually recall it, but the Optimize Your Gut online course, which I just want to show that it's now minus 50%. So we have this regular campaigns. You know, this is usually maybe every third month or so. But this has become pretty highly popular gut optimization course, and I haven't seen anything similar to that. I know Chris Kresser has some, but I think this is one of the most comprehensive courses. And the bonus in the course is that you see my replies to every person who has questioned, having any questions around gut issues. And this is a 7-week systematic course. But so if you want to go really deep into your own possible problems and issues, this would be it, and I'm there to help and answer your questions.
Awesome.
So there we go. And Siim.
Before we continue, like if you are on the chat on Siim Land's YouTube channel or the Biohacker Summit YouTube channel, I'm following the chat, and if you have any questions, like just ask, and we would be happy to answer your questions. The more interactive we get, the better it becomes. And there's questions about probiotic formulations, foods, fermented foods, etc. Which probiotic, which type strains. We will answer all of these during the course of this webinar. And there's already some hacks being discussed about blood sugar regulation, apple cider vinegar, all that. So whatever questions you have, like we would be happy to answer. And we have Siim Land also on the line. And have you, Siim, had any gut issues, or how central is gut optimization in your life?
Well, I've never had like any real like gut issues, and I've like I usually like grew up in the countryside, so I've always been like in this very bacteria-rich environment, and with dirt and stuff like that. So I do think that my kind of microbiome itself is very diverse ever since my birth, and I think that's also very kind of critical. One of the missing components in like the modern living, that people are living in these very sterile cities, and they're actually avoiding all bacteria all the time, and washing their hands and cleaning things up with chemicals and stuff like. So that definitely has like a pretty big impact on your like immune system and your microbiome, especially. Like I've never even taken like antibiotics or painkillers or anything like that. So yeah, I think I have a pretty good microbiome.
Brilliant
you exercise a lot.
Yeah.
You do a lot of exercise, and many people who overdo exercise, they end up with gut issues. And why is that?
Well, it's usually because of the stress and the cortisol. You're kind of breaking down the intestinal lining when you're exercising and when you're fasting as well. And if you're like not repairing it with adequate nutrition, or like some nutrient deficiencies, or not getting enough protein especially, then that's just going to eventually usually it's going to cause like some symptoms of this intestinal permeability, and from that you get like autoimmune issues and other kind of flare-ups.
Yeah. So people in the chat, if you have any gut issues, experience with this topic, just post in the chat. We have people from South Africa, from India, from Stockholm, from Madeira. People keep on jumping in, from Estonia as well, from England. Welcome everyone. Welcome Agatha and Furious Tea Sipper and Olli and all other guys. So and girls. So if you have any questions, go ahead. So Olli, you are kind of, as a doctor, you've been focused a lot on first healing the gut, and you also had your own problems with that. Like, can you reflect on that a little bit?
Yeah, I was kind of in awe hearing Siim's story, living in the countryside and never had to take any antibiotics. And well, actually, it shows your system is really bulletproof, and you have kind of avoided the things that, for example, I've gone through, like living in the city, doing antibiotics, having a lot of physicians in the family, and it was always antibiotics. But I've asked actually this about my parents, and they said I didn't take that many antibiotics. But on the other hand, our diet wasn't that rich. It was pretty highly processed, typical Western diet, I would say. Of course, we ate also clean food, but we had a lot of chemicals in the house, personal care stuff, and I put on myself a lot of stuff that I would never put on myself like now. So it has taken also kind of long time to detoxify and balance the system, balance the gut, from all of these stressors, from all of the toxins that I put on myself throughout the years. And also, of course, highly stressed life, like medical school, and from there, I think actually the stress period and that began in the army, when I was in the army, and creating this chronic sleep deprivation. And from there on, it actually really never eased until, like, I would say maybe 2010, when I realized that this has to end, that I cannot live like that. Of course, I wasn't sick, usually at all, but I was like chronically tired. But there are many things to that, and also gut issues throughout the years. But having found all kinds of means to treat myself, first and foremost, I've read and treated hundreds and hundreds of patients also with gut-related issues. And there wasn't that much information back in 2010 on for example, gluten or grains or milks, possible like disturbances in the gut, and all these FODMAPs. And as when we speak now and compare the information that it is now, it's like, I would say, like 100-fold difference. So yeah. I've also had to dig a lot of stuff that really wasn't available in Finland, and then I began doing it with my patients. Of course, it was always based on research, but there were no protocols, for example, in Finnish. So that's also my way into treating patients with gut issues.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a bunch of questions coming in on colon health and probiotics, prebiotics, and Heshi is saying that we are frustrated with diet. It has been restricted for 3 years, but now my husband's allergies delved into chronic. I mean, that's pretty much during the pandemic, probably what people experienced, like lack of exposure to bacteria and viruses, and in the end, like isolation, lack of nature connection, all of that is probably showing in the gut microbiome as well. But Olli has a little, I guess, like a primer into gut health, and I think we should go through a couple of slides so that we all get on the same page what we're talking about here.
Sure. First, I want to mention that starting now, we have a discount code 10May, not May 10, 10 May, to get minus 10% off all products. There's Siim's books, we have black stuff, we have different kind of probiotics, collagen, and you name it. So just if you're interested in different kind of things and want to take advantage of this opportunity. But anyhow, I think it's pretty trendy to go back into ancient Greece, but there has to be a reason to that, because Hippocrates, if I'd met him, I probably thought that he was a cool man, maybe not so serious, but he has some great sentences which are still living in this world. All disease begins in the gut. Of course, he probably didn't speak English, but this is translation. And let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food. And these are still ever more relevant, maybe more relevant than ever. But if you take a look at the food's journey through the body, this is actually found in the Biohacker's handbook. So if you want to take a closer look, take your book and have a look. But basically happens to when you eat. So it's a food. When you eat food, it's called bolus. So there's this bolus of food, and you swallow it, it goes to the esophagus and to the stomach. And the stomach needs to be very acidic, around pH 1. And when you go lower, it goes to pH 2, but very acidic. So if you think when Teemu described he's using proton pump inhibitors, what they do, they make the pH higher. And that makes the whole process of food and the digestion a lot more complicated and harder. And from the stomach, the food bolus goes to the small intestines, where is the actual nutrient absorption, especially in the first parts of the duodenum or the small intestine, and from there we actually have some bile secreted from the gallbladder to the small intestines, and also some pancreatic enzymes to help really absorb the nutrients. And when the nutrients have been absorbed, the material goes to the cecum through the ileocecal valve. And we also have the appendix, which is actually a storage for good bacteria. So when we remove the appendix in case of like infection and serious inflammation, you actually remove a storage place for good bacteria. In the large intestine, we have mostly like reabsorption of salt, but also some vitamin K and the production of vitamin K, and all water, or most of the water, is also reabsorbed. And when it moves further with these movements that are natural and should be working really fine, we go into the sigmoid colon, where the feces are stored. And when there's this reflex to go to the toilet, the poop comes out from the rectum and possibly and probably to the toilet. So this is the food's journey through the system, like really explained very simplistically, but I think this is something that people realized, okay, hey, this is what's happening. These are the steps I might be having to have a little help to really help my digestive system function.
But it's funny is that like you are actually kind of like a hollow tube.
Yeah.
So your whole gut and the digestive system is kind of outside of you, and it decides what nutrients gets absorbed, like through the gut barrier, and the bacteria helps you on the surface of that hollow tube to ferment the food and break it down, and sometimes increase even the nutritional content of the food that you eat, so it gets absorbed. And so you have the microbiome on your skin, and you have that in your digestive system. And there's a good question here, like what is what is kind of healthy gut biome? Is there really a such thing? I would say like a healthy gut biome is in the end is at least in the studies linked to diversity, and I would say that the ecosystem is balanced. It's in a homeostasis. It's in an equilibrium. That's kind of no single organism is dominating. And when it comes to probiotics, for example, that's another topic. Is like what is good bacteria and what is bad. We will come back to it, but if we take a look at the digestive system, Olli, what are the typical issues people have with the different organs?
Yeah, so here we have that are the most important parts of the digestive system. So if we begin from the stomach, of course, there's this esophagus, and you might have some swallowing problems, and even like problems in the mouth, which is also part of the digestive system, but we are not concentrating on that. But as you described, you had a severe stress, bad diet, and really problems in the stomach, and probably this ulcer that you treated by yourself. And the problem is that people take and the doctors prescribe way too many these proton pump inhibitors, which in the short-term use, they're okay, maximum 2 weeks, but when you use them in a long time, you create a lot of problems. But the most common problem is not actually that it's too acidic, but it's that too low an acid, and that creates a lot of problems, a lot of digestive problems, which can lead to small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, nutrient imbalances and the problems in the absorption and so on. Of course, you can have some issues in the stomach lining and even have some gastritis, and at the other end, an atrophic gastritis, which means that it's completely destroyed the lining of the stomach, and then that causes again different kind of problems. In the small intestine, usually people have problems in the absorption of different nutrients. Also, quite many have overgrowth of bacteria that shouldn't be really growing there, but rather in the large intestine. That's a problem. People might have some mobility problems. It's not going like smooth and moving to the large intestine. So that's one issue. Also some diverticulitis and diverticulitis, if it gets inflamed, might cause some problems. So different kind of problems in there. And in the large intestine, which is the main storage of these, and that's where we measure the intestinal bacterial diversity. And it's also if people have some like IBD, inflammatory bowel diseases, it's usually in the large intestines. Of course, it can be in the small, but usually it's in the large. So that is the place where all the salts and water is reabsorbed, but also the internal ecosystem, which has a lot of different kind of functions, and also the gut-brain communication, secretion of different kind of neurotransmitters, and so on and so on. The pancreas role in the digestion is the secretion of different kind of digestive enzymes. So that is the main role. Of course, the inner part has insulin and glucagon and blood sugar regulation stuff, but that's a different thing. Liver, it produces these acids that are stored in the gallbladder. So it's really helping bile acids. Didn't get the word. So it's helping digesting especially fats, but bile acids also have their unique and own metabolic functions, for example, in blood sugar regulation and weight management and so on. And gallbladder is the storage place for these bile acids. So usually people have some kind of problems if the gallbladder is removed, and mostly it can cause this kind of steatorrhea, which means that you have some unabsorbed fats in your stool. So there we go.
Thank you for the introduction. Now, if we take a look at a healthy gut, so you have healthy gut lining, and inflammation like stress or stress caused low-level inflammation and so on, it increases gut permeability. And when you eat food, when the food breaks down into components like peptides, some of those peptides can get into the bloodstream that are not actually allowed to go there because of the gut permeability, and that activates your immune system, and immune system response. And often when you have autoimmune disease, it's linked to gut issues where your immune system is starting to attack its own cell linings in different parts of the body, so you get allergic reactions or whatnot. And that is one of the things which is kind of complex to heal and to understand. But if we take a look at modern diet and lifestyle, for example, we eat a diet high on pro-inflammatory fats, for example. It could be trans fats, highly processed food that is causing issues. You have food additives that are disturbing the gut microbiome. You're not eating a diverse diet, so you might eat same food items over and over again. Like when you have vegetables, every time you have just ketchup and French fries.
Cucumber.
And yeah, so you're actually feeding only specific bacteria in your gut, and those get out of hand. So bacteria on their own are not, the enemy here. It's the species or strains that take over that start to cause problems. Like in a healthy ecosystem, things are in balance. So if you take many issues like even candida and yeast infections and so on, you need candida in your body for healthy functioning, but the problem is when it gets out of hand. If you eat too much sugar, you feed the candida, and you get this overgrowth and reactions all around the body. So in the end, it's about restoring the balance, and one way to do that is to increase gut bacterial diversity. I use some supplements for it. I have Saccharomyces boulardii, for example, here, which is often for travelers' diarrhea is pretty awesome. If you get some acute food poisoning or so on, like this is pretty awesome for that. Seed, this is a symbiotic, so it's a soil-based probiotic preparation that also has the prebiotics. So often the probiotics or the bacteria, the probiotics, they need also some prebiotics to absorb well. Most of that gets destroyed when you take them. That's why they are encapsulated usually so that they bypass the stomach acid. But still, a lot of those guys get wiped out on the way, and very little actually ends up in the system. So for that reason, it's very important to also eat a diet which is feeding bacterial diversity, like having so-called living foods like sauerkraut or fermented foods in general, maybe a couple of sips of kombucha occasionally, kimchi, all of that. And also like having like some raw vegetables and salads and so on. This springtime, I'm collecting a lot of wild herbs and plants, and I'm using those as part of my diet. Fiber is important, fermentable fiber, because in the microbiome, they produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. Butyrate is basically what you have in butter also. So you can have butter or ghee if you don't want to have the milk protein as well. But fiber is important for digestion and slowing down absorption of sugars and all that also. But it creates this kind of mucus that is very beneficial in the digestive system. And it has another effect which is related to fat metabolism and cholesterol and so on. Beta-glucans are in oats and barley, and they are also in mushrooms, and I use some medicinal mushrooms like chaga and reishi and all that, which are high in beta-glucans. And beta-glucans, they produce this kind of mucus that binds some of the cholesterol as well. So for that reason, beta-glucans are sometimes prescribed for high cholesterol. So for healthy, balanced lipid metabolism, you also need some fiber. You might need some beta-glucans and all that. But beta-glucans have another effect, which is they stimulate the production of macrophages, basically cell eaters in your immune system. So when you have an intruder, the macrophages are basically trapping those intruders. And beta-glucans stimulate that production. So immune system is key for gut health also, and for that reason, like supplements like zinc, selenium, magnesium, omega-3 oils are very beneficial. And when I had my gut issues, a couple of supplements were really key. One of them was glutamine, and the other one was collagen. Glutamine, like 5 grams in single dose if you have diarrhea. After that can speed up the recovery of the gut lining. And Olli can maybe give a little more information about that and some of the amino acids and their benefit.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, you mentioned the immune system, though, so it's actually a specific gut-associated lymphoid tissue that's regulating the system. It's called GALT, and that's why you often hear saying, of course this is a Wikipedia article, but this is pretty legit. You often hear the saying that 70% of the immune system relies in the gut, but that is actually pretty true. So many people do not actually realize that when the gut is in good condition, your immune system usually is in a good condition. But I actually would like to hear Siim's takes on these kind of things. There are a lot of questions. I don't know if Siim sees these questions, and I think we should get these questions.
I can add like a few comments about this, the topic so far. That the idea of like what is very like a vague term of what is a good microbiome or what is the kind of perfect balance, and it's very like itself it's very changing all the time. Like you can change your microbiome within days by just changing the foods that you eat, and usually that is more of like that. There are certain strains of bacteria that are often associated with health and let's say leanness, whereas some other strains are more associated or more found in people who are obese or sick. So I think there may be like several ways of reaching that end goal. So there isn't like a one particular best microbiome diet and the best microbiome supplement. It's very dependent on the person and depends on their the way they react to the food, their like sensitivities or their genetics as well. And generally just it's almost like if you are healthy and fit and lean, then usually your microbiome is also going to be in good shape. Whereas if you are diseased and sick or obese, then the microbiome is a reflection of that disease state, if that makes sense.
And skin, and that's also what I take a look at people. Usually you can tell a lot about their skin health and how they look outside, and that's a reflection on the state of the gut. And as you mentioned here, if a person is obese, usually he or she has some problems in the gut balance. And one of the things that might be out of whack or in imbalance is the relation of firmicutes to Bacteroides. And that's been, I think that's one of the most researched kind of like a ratio. So when you transform this ratio, you also usually get either leaner or you get more obese. But then again, the diet you use, the foods you take is also what feeds these kind of bacteria. And you can play around with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, the bacteroides are the ones that are associated with leanness, if I'm not mistaken, and the firmicutes are the ones that are associated with obesity.
Yeah, that is what I also recall. Of course, you can actually see this analysis if you take this, for example, this GIFX comprehensive profile, and that is what I used on my patients. This is basically the interpretation of the glands, like the first page. But you can also see the diversity association, but you have like many tens of different kind of bacteria and their PCR content, and you have like Fusobacteria, Firmicutes, Bacteroides, Actinobacteria, Proteobacteria, and so on. These different kind of phyla or genus of bacteria. So having this kind of like comprehensive analysis on the state of your gut, not just necessarily the diversity, but the overall state. If you have inflammation, any infections, any insufficiency, maybe you have some fecal fats, or you have imbalance in the bacterial balance. You have, let's say, too much potential pathogens, yeast, and so on. When having this kind of comprehensive analysis and a bigger picture of the whole system, then I think it's a lot easier to actually do these kind of changes. But of course, as Siim has a lot of material which are generally good. I think they are, no matter what, like where you live, what's your sex, your age, you have a lot of good information also on the gut health. So maybe let's say like a top 3 recommendations for gut from Siim.
I think the one really important one would be to just avoid these like say highly refined and highly processed foods, because they're very high in calories and high in sugars and carbs and fats, and at the same time they don't have like a lot of these enzymes and micronutrients. You're just getting like these empty calories that just increase your risk of obesity, and they don't have like this beneficial effect on the microbiome, and at the same time they also are harder to digest in a sense that they don't have these enzymes. So like these very refined oils, they virtually have no micronutrients and just empty calories. That would be like the first thing. The second thing would be, I think, maybe doing some of this time restricted eating, because that's also been found to help the microbiome in research. Like it helps to like lower inflammation, it helps to eliminate these pathogens in the gut, and it actually has been shown to like improve some of the diversity in the gut instead of like destroying the bacteria. Like you would expect that if you're not eating, then you're kind of killing off the bacteria, but actually the microbiome itself kind of balances itself out because you're ceasing the food consumption and allowing it to kind of work in conjunction with autophagy. So autophagy has like a pretty important role in the microbiome and the immune system as well by just eliminating these pathogens. And lastly, I would say that maybe like this circadian rhythm alignment. So your gut has its own circadian clock as well, and the circadian rhythms in the brain and through the rest of the body, they also regulate your digestion, your metabolism, and the gut function as well. So I think this, if I'm not mistaken, like the circadian mismatches will lead to more dysbiosis, and dysbiosis often is hand in hand with these circadian mismatches as well. So that would be the last one.
So super. I think this is one of the like most comprehensive answers to this kind of question, and it's systematic because these kind of basic things, basic rhythms, have a really big effect, a bigger effect than people actually realize. And how I fixed for the better and for the good my bacterial balance and the diversity and the overall balance was through intermittent fasting and simply not eating, and the AMPK levels, and also it changed the Firmicutes to Bacteroides relationship. So I actually found this really nice study from 2020 from Nutrients, the Firmicutes Bacteroides ratio, a relevant marker of gut dysbiosis in obese patients. So there's a lot of stuff to go through, but we know if the Firmicutes go high, it's usually you go obese. And this was an interesting point here, that if there's this sentence, the studies were supported by studies in animals fed high fat or high fiber diets showing higher Firmicutes and Bacteroides abundance. So basically, if you eat high fat, you usually have higher Firmicutes, and usually it leads to obesity, and again, higher fiber leads to higher Bacteroides. But of course, it's not that black and white, and usually they feed these animals really high inflammatory fats. So, but
these diets are like cocoa butter with cereal, and basically the American diet, and that is because of the high fat.
What you can deduce from this is that low quality fat, like highly inflammatory fat, is really bad, and these polyphenols, especially high fiber polyphenols, these kind of plants are actually really good. And I've been playing around with this, like kind of switching the diet from higher fat to lower fat. And I've actually noticed that for me personally, if I cut the fat lower and increase the fiber, no matter if it's good fat, you can still eat too much of good fat. It's actually working for me, for my system and my genetics a little bit better. So not going to the ketogenic, like super ketogenic like side, but more of the, I would say, like the Mediterranean side, but still on the low carbohydrate side.
That's what people often go, I guess, wrong with keto, is they eat a narrow set of food items, a lot of fats, only specific food items over and over again, and that has an effect on the microbial diversity. Now, guys, let me stop the train for a second, because Lars Bergmeister says that, guys, can you also take some questions in addition to sharing all the knowledge?
There's a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions. Best sources of fiber and best sources of good collagen. Now, I had some reindeer bone broth in my coffee, so I guess that's a pretty good source of collagen. But definitely, like gelatin is a pretty good source. Eating bone marrow is mentioned here. connective tissues and so on. Like often people, when they have meat, they have the lean cuts, but sometimes you may actually want to have like minced meat and yeah, here is the bone broth, the wild crafted reindeer bone broth here from Finland, super clean.
It's found nowhere else. It's literally found nowhere else.
Out. So yeah, let's take a few questions. So, yeah, best sources of fiber. What do you guys think?
Siim.
I think well, I think the fermented foods tend to be one of the best ones. So you get the probiotics from that. Some people are more sensitive to fermented foods and they get like histamine reactions from that. So you have to be careful with it. But generally, like I like just like slightly like some steamed vegetables, as well as like actually like beans and legumes are pretty good for prebiotics, and they have like more this resistant starch, which also is good for glucose regulation and the microbiome. So yeah, like I usually eat like some beans and steamed vegetables with some fermented foods.
Yeah. So my take is somewhat different, and you mentioned here that I seem to his histamine intolerance, so get a runny nose, and these kind of fermented foods are really a no-go. I've been trying to take them for years, and every time I got this kind of a situation going on. It's still also the same with sulfites, but what I like for fibers in particular are berries, different kind of high polyphenol berries. I love very dark and raw chocolates. So I actually have here, I have a raw dark chocolate with bilberry powder. So this is for my gut. I'm not gonna chew it now, but maybe take it later. And I also eat a lot of leafy greens and like a huge variety of leaf greens. So those seem to work really well for me. But also I like cooked and then cooled potatoes with the resistant starch. So I can tolerate quite a bit of resistant starch, and that doesn't seem to cause any problems, but rather create a lot of stability for the gut, and I also feel that it does good for me. And also every now and then cooked and then cooled rice. And so yeah, those are basically my favorites. Of course, oats. I eat a couple of times per week some oats, like organic oats, 100% oats, and I find those are also really good. And maybe some seed crackers every now and then. Not too much. If I eat them too much, I get too much of a stool. And of course, that might not be a bad thing, but it's clearly stimulating the bacterial growth and the stool production. For me, these legumes are really a no-go because of their high FODMAP content. Maybe some lentils every now and then if they're like well cooked, and but beans are a no-go for me. But Siim is right on this. If you tolerate them, they're an excellent source also for fiber. So it depends on your own preferences on your system.
Some of the best are the what are the black ones? The beluga lentils.
Yes,
lentils.
That's the ones.
They are highest in nutrient content. So often, like these dark colors are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
About nuts and seeds and all that, like even collagen, we have in the biohackercenter.com store. We have food-ins. This is the granola bar. We got some keto bars and so on. Some of our customers said that these are some of the highest quality in terms of ingredients and composition compared to any other bars on the market. So take a look at that from Food-in. It's a Finnish company and very high quality ones. I'm having one here right now. So
and Biohacker's chocolate.
Yeah, Biohacker's chocolate.
I'm eating raw chocolate, so it's people don't really realize that it's one of the best sources of polyphenols and fibers. So chocolate in general, like dark and raw chocolate, is one of the best foods you can actually do and eat for your gut. Right. But also in moderation. 100 grams, probably not doing good, but few here and there.
There's some comments that someone can't have like let's say bone broth or meat at home. If you are on a vegan diet, sprouting things and fermenting foods and soaking them like seeds and so on is a really good idea. Like when you have quinoa, for example, which is very high on nutrient content, it causes gastrointestinal problems if you are not soaking it well enough. You have to actually rinse it several times, let it sit, maybe putting some vinegar, a little bit of vinegar in it to help in the process. Like the seeds often have in the hull, in the covering part of the seed, these kind of anti-nutrients like lectins and saponins and other
prolamins and glycoalkaloids,
all that. So you can actually soak them out, and when you sprout something, it's actually dropping its guard in a way. It considers, okay, I can grow now, and it actually increases often the nutritional content. A good example is, of course, like sprouted broccoli seeds that are for their sulforaphane content very popular in biohacking circles. Now, what else? There's a question about psyllium husk and inulin. I use occasionally a little bit of psyllium if I make some raw cake or something like that. What do you guys think about inulin or psyllium if you don't get fiber from other sources?
Well, I can go first. Both are good. Psyllium, I think it's more neutral. It's better tolerated, and it's especially good if you have some constipation, but also if you have some diarrhea. And it seems to also provide a little bit of food for bacteria, but not too much. Mostly it's the consistency of the stool. Inulin, on the other hand, it's of course it's a very high FODMAP, but it's also very feeding for the good bacteria. So it depends on the situation. If you already have a lot of bacteria, it might not be that good, but on the other hand, it might be really good.
Yeah, I think with the psyllium husk, like if it may work for some people who aren't getting like enough fiber from their food, but and if they are like sensitive to actually eating more fiber, so that can be something that get dry. But I haven't like tried it myself that often to see like if it does work or not. With the inulin, like a lot of these keto bars and paleo bars, they have like inulin in there as a fiber. And what I've heard is that most people, they get really bad reactions from eating those bars because of the inulin and that sort of thing. So I think you probably have to be careful with how much inulin are you getting. So too much is definitely not good.
I wouldn't supplement with inulin. It's high. Let's see, like asparagus, some inulin, but also like in the word in English. Garlic has a lot of inulin, but it's a fructooligosaccharide, and if you take it too much, you're definitely gonna fart a lot and you're gonna get a lot of gas. So that's for sure. But if you're looking for that, then be my guest.
Go ahead. Yeah, Paul is asking, how do you get strains of bacteria back that once they are completely depleted? And there's another question from Katerina on like what to take after antibiotics. What are the best probiotics to take?
I would go with the first one. I would go with the seed symbiotic. So if your diversity and the total flora is totally like completely gone to zero, it's been destroyed, the seed literally helps, and it's one of the best like in the market, even if not the best and the most research and the highest quality. You might not need that if you only have like some small disbalances and different kind of things. If you have like a diarrhea caused by some kind of let's say a fungus or a bacteria, then the Saccharomyces boulardii has been really well researched to balance the system pretty quickly. So it depends on the situation, and of course it depends on the balance you have. If you already have a lot of lactobacilli, eating the more of them, it's not really creating anything good. It's actually worsening the imbalance, and also it might create a lactic acidosis into your system, which is actually it's causing a lot of brain fog and a lot of different kind of systemic symptoms. So be careful of also that, and also histamine intolerance with different kind of strains that actually worsen the histamine production. So you have to take a look at the strains, what they have, and whether you're tolerant to them or not, whether you have already a lot of, let's say, lactobacilli in the system, whether it's good or not.
Right. There is basically like the marketing term for good bacteria, and it's not always good if it gets out of hand.
It's always context dependent.
Yeah,
of course, I don't want to get any like pathogenic bacteria, which are not context dependent. They are pathogenic no matter what.
After some antibiotics, I would take glutamine. I would take probably some other amino acids like glycine, even magnesium, zinc. I would go for some good prebiotic and probiotic for sure. But restoring the gut lining is key, and keeping inflammation at bay. There is a question about enzymes.
As a last resort, like if those probiotics and food doesn't work, then like the fecal transplant is probably the only way to kind of fully restore like a microbiome if you have it like some serious damage or some serious antibiotic from there.
That is one option, but again, the problem is that it's not lasting. It's totally, again, dependent on your diet. So people tend to go to the previous balance. But of course, if it's completely destroyed, then having this transplant might be a good idea. But the caveat is here that I've heard a lot of stories that people's thoughts are changing and their behavior is changing because you are introducing a totally new ecosystem, which then again have some like different kind of neurotransmitters, different kind of patterns. So the gut-brain axis goes also out of balance for at least for a while. So might become a different person.
Yeah. When like Siim, your hairstyle looks great.
Have you taken a gut transplant?
it must be the gut transplant. So there's a question about enzymes, and I would also throw in the question about hydrochloric acid and HCl, basically a supplement. Like, what do you guys think about helping digestion? And here is some recommendations from Olli, and you can get those from the backercenter.com store.
So definitely if you have some problems digesting proteins and overall like bloating immediately after eating, I would go and try with Biooptimizer's HCl breakthrough. I think this is the best HCl product in the market. I've tried myself and it does really do wonders. And also, if you have a lot of like complex stuff to break, let's say different kind of complex fibers, then the Biooptimizer's Masszymes is also highly functional enzyme product. Then again, on the bacterial side and the ecosystem, this new product, Finnish product called Black Stuff, having some lignans from birch and also from chaga, seems to be a really unique product to balance the bacterial system and strain. And of course, we already discussed this, the wildcrafted bone broth. Really overall good, like soothing soup-like product for the intestinal lining of the gut. So this would be like my 4 top go-tos. I know, let's say Siim you have almost the same, you have magnesium here. So we're kind of on the same page, man.
yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, like the HCl is good.
Yeah,
and magnesium is mostly for the electrolytes and the stress and that sort of thing, relaxation.
Indeed, and also bowel movements, really helping
sure.
with that. And Teemu has some different options. Why do we have some MCTs in here?
Yeah, we already discussed the glutamine and zinc. Actually, Vita Coola series, there is magnesium also. There is ashwagandha, there is zinc. Those are like bioorganic versions, so not like raw extract zinc or something like this. These are very high quality capsules and plant-based and all that. The caprylic acid, actually, like I've used MCT oil. Here is the Nordcode MCT or the C8. I've used these for a long time. For me, it's a lot about optimizing also blood sugar regulation, and these things are key for that. Coconut oil influences blood sugar spikes definitely. Like, I mean, the MCT oils, they go to the liver and they produce ketone bodies and basically are directly a source of fuel for the mitochondria. So that's one thing that I put in my salad dressings and I put in my coffee. And apple cider vinegar before a meal. Krister is asking about the blood sugar curve. What is the biological process? It influences gluconeogenesis, absorption of sugars, and also beta glucans have similar effects. So medicinal mushrooms, I often put sometimes even chaga in my drinks. This is Mighty Fungi. It's an Estonian company. We will have this in our store soon. The lion's mane double extract especially is amazing. Tastes like toffee almost, and extremely good for brain function. But the beta glucans definitely are one. Like barley and oats would be the ones if I had some I would avoid wheat, but I would go for barley and oats if I'm having any grains. And for me also for blood sugar regulation, one of the hacks is fenugreek as a spice. Many spices actually have like cinnamon. Cinnamon has a pretty interesting blood sugar dampening effect. So that's mainly for the energy levels. But yeah, definitely there's probably also some effects on the gut microbiome. I had pretty good gut health last few years. So the cyclical ketogenic diet has definitely worked for me. Occasional fasting, skipping breakfast and lunch, and just
Teemu.
break occasionally.
Teemu, don't be a geek. Take fenugreek.
Yeah,
it's my newest one. You lost your thoughts.
If you guys listening, if you like so far the webinar, like the channel, subscribe, share with your friend who has gut problems, and we're good to go. So
remember the discounts. It's 10 May. Everything we have discussed here and more. It's only a week, and it's not May 10. It's 10 May, and of all products minus 10%. And the gut course. So I'm happy to help you there. This is kind of the offer. It's not going to repeat itself for a while. And this is my passion, to help people to achieve homeostasis and balance in their lives. And I just love to help people. So minus 50% at the moment.
There are some questions about protein sources. Like, I think this is a never-ending discussion about vegan versus carnivore diet. And,
I love protein.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. I have occasionally some plant-based protein source also. Like, there's a question about whey versus pea protein. I don't really go over crazy with whey protein. I don't feel that it's good. I think it has a blood sugar spiking effect also. So I like to go for meat, really like that. But some fermented protein sources in the vegetarian diet side are pretty good. And lentils we mentioned already.
Natto.
And not tempeh definitely is
the highest K2, vitamin K2.
If you have soy based products, tempeh is just the best.
I think the only one time I've tried tempeh was in Toronto during our 2018 Biohacker Summit, when we went to this vegan restaurant and there were no other options for protein. It tastes good, and I got really full from the meal, but the hunger stayed. So definitely I think was lacking protein because protein is the most satisfying thing.
Experience with vegan restaurants. Either I get super sleepy or hungry. What do you guys think about? What was the question here? I missed what I was looking for.
There's a lot of discussion. I think there's a kind of a debate between two persons in here.
Yeah, it's going on like omega-3s and everything going on here.
Basic food fights. No, it's not. No, it's like that. No, you're wrong. No.
Yeah, my diet is the best on the planet. Yeah. So I think in the end it's about diversity. Like if you are like, hey, a specific fat is best or specific protein, then you only do that.
Recycle.
Probably you're doing something wrong.
Recycle. Protein recycling. That's what I do. I don't eat the same protein like in like consecutive days. I have like a rotation. Maybe it could be like different protein source every day, or maybe like 5 different kind of sources, and definitely animal proteins which are ethical and high quality. But I usually cycle between kind of like a lamb, maybe some reindeer, elk, then some wild fish, and organic, either turkey or chicken, and Highlander beef. So this is usually my rotation. Every now and then some internal organs, liver and so on.
Isn't it that protein is often linked to food sensitivity?
Yeah. So if you let's say you hammer chicken every day, chicken broccoli, like all the time, or eggs. I created intolerance on eggs because I ate 5 eggs every morning for 2 years back in 2014. So I still have some disgust against eggs. Maybe I eat them like once or maximum twice per week, and that seems to be working fine.
Yeah, Vinci is asking if this course is suitable for someone with a leaky gut. Definitely, I mean.
Oh yes, it's there's one specific week for the leaky gut syndrome and how to fix that. So there are step-by-step guidance on how you can actually do it, and it's that's been kind of also my passion, treating leaky gut. So I can actually show what does it mean. I think we show this pretty quickly, but this is like a simple illustration. So normally you have these intestinal mucosal cells and the tight junctions between the cells, but it can become leaky and inflamed, and the tight junctions are not really there anymore, and it could also be leaky through the cells, and this is creating like stuff to the you kind of really stuff to the bloodstream these different peptides that really shouldn't be there. And you can actually test it by drinking this kind of lactulose mannitol liquid, and we can see from the urine how much comes out of the system. So pretty simple way to test it.
There is a conversation about nuts, and
nuts, man.
The kind of I guess reductionism that is often present in dietary recommendations and fats and ideas, like often when people talk about nuts, they're immediately like omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. Yeah, if it's so bad. No, it's not bad. Like, I mean, there's a comment about walnuts that it's very high on omega-6, but there is some nutrients that are essential for brain function. Like we often, like when we reduce things to a specific ingredient, specific fat, specific mineral, whatever, we are missing some of the, let's say, polyphenols or more complex compounds that you get in there, and you're kind of blinded by just like fiber or protein or carbohydrate amounts. So I would increase diversity. Definitely macadamia nuts are awesome for omega-3 to omega-6 ratio.
Pistachios are actually really good. Pistachios are really good for the microbial diversity and balance. But if you like, nuts. There's a good saying that maximum of your own handful of nuts I have a pretty big hand, so I could actually eat more nuts, but that's a good size. You shouldn't go overboard with that. If you eat like tons and tons of nuts, of course you're gonna get too much omega-6, and then again, if you eat some grains and processed foods, then it's accumulating. It's always dependent on the context and the totality of your own diet, and eating diverse kind of nuts. Different nuts have different kind of compounds and different effects on the body, and they're not like good or bad. But maybe I would say that like these peanuts, which is actually not really a nut, so that might be the most possibly harmful for the gut, or at least most allergenic.
Yeah, absolutely. And the raw ones that you get in Japanese restaurants, what is it called? Like, the green things that are often.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's worst. Free Hide question about colostrum supplementation for gut health. Excellent. Also great for immune system functioning. Go for it.
Not all the time, but if you have some serious problems and you want to fix the leaky gut state fast, then glutamine and colostrum in combination, and maybe even some added lactoferrin would be a really good combo.
Oh yeah, lactoferrin. That's one thing, by the way, that is a chelator also, so it can maybe also help extract some heavy metals from the body. So like that is the important. Yeah, wasabi. There's good stuff here. So what do you guys think about allergy tests? IgG, IgM?
Yeah, they are doable. I've done them like hundreds with patients, and IgG, IgG4. They can be like really good, and they can show, for example, the state of leaky gut. If you have a lot of reactions that are high, usually it's state that the gut is very leaky, and they're not like 100% sensitive, so there might be some cross reactions, some results that are not actually true, or they might not show something that's there, but I would say that's one of the best options you can have, and if you have an option not to take and you have some problems, I would definitely take these tests. IgM is it's a different kind of test for different kind of reaction, as it's IgE. IgE is for allergies. IgM is more of like this fast reaction, mostly to different kind of pathogenic bacteria or like microbes, but also for nutrients. But usually it's IgG which has the curve. It's longer. IgM is pretty fast and then it goes down. Then there is IgG, and IgE it's usually always high if the person has allergy.
Right. Yeah. So that's another, reason for cycling in and out from these things, so that you don't develop reactions or responses that are not so balanced or beneficial. All right. Is there, Siim, listening to this conversation, is there anything that you feel we haven't said that is very key when it comes to gut health?
I don't know. Like, I think, like the stomach acid tend to be like a really important part, especially as you get like older and stuff. So if your like stomach acid goes down, then you can't really absorb the foods, and you get like indigestion, and that also leads to bloating and stuff like that. So yeah, the HCl is good for that. The apple cider vinegar can be good for that. But yeah, just usually the stomach acid also goes down if you're like drinking too much water, or too much sugar and too much processed foods, too much foods of the dead foods that don't have like any digestive enzymes. So yeah, I think that's a last pointer.
Yeah, definitely. I actually have a slide about this, and zinc carnosine, one of the best to rebalance the stomach function and the parietal cell lining, and this has been highly researched. And if you combine that with glutamine, it's a win-win package. Then the betaine, HCl plus pepsin is for the digestion itself. Then we have actually silica or silicone, and it's a micronutrient that also needed in the stomach lining. And at least in Finland, we have this specific product which has this silicone or silica acid carbamylose gel. Apple cider vinegar, we talked, and also this basic stuff. Do not drink when you're eating. It might somewhat dilute to the pH, not necessarily too much, but I wouldn't drink while eating, and also take time to eat and chew carefully.
There is a question from a couple of individuals about Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. So with Crohn's disease, like, is there anything specific you want to only add maybe?
Yeah, there's of course a genetic component, a predisposition. It's highly treatable with the diet, and also with fixing the leaky gut syndrome, which is always usually in the case. I've treated like maybe 100 IBD patients with pretty good results. Of course, it's not all about diet. A lot of has to do with the stress management, and that is often when everything is in place, diet and supplements and stuff like that, even medication, but stress is out of whack. It's still causing the stuff. It's so specific state that I'm not really going to give you a lecture about that. But of course, in the course, I go through also that, and the main line is that when you balance the whole system, the whole state and system of your body, you also usually balance these chronic diseases. And what comes to IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, it's a collection of syndromes caused by different kind of things, disbalances in the body. And well, in 50%, people have actually SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which then again usually is due to low stomach acid levels, which is of course most often usually due to bad diet and chronic stress. So here we go again to the basics. So always go first to the basics.
Good stuff.
First you have to kind of also identify what is the cause of it, like you said. That it can be many things. Like maybe you have to take a gut test or something like that, and allergy test or something, and then try to like come up with some different solutions based upon that.
Yeah, and just trying something like an elimination diet, so that you take out from your diet the typical problematic foods, FODMAPs, allergy-causing foods, and you slowly add things back in, and it usually alleviates for many people some issues. So Agatha Velvet says that also remember to eat seasonally. That's the key, like to cycle things and out, and not just like getting stuck to a specific fad or philosophy of
well, what about if you live in the Canary Islands? It's always 20 to 22 degrees, always the same sun, always the 12 hours, the length of the day. How do you eat seasonally then? Or if you live in the Antarctica?
It's just one season. So eat one season.
The same same food every day, all the time.
Same seafood every day. So maybe you need to order some wild reindeer bone broth, marshmallow. So I don't know. Like go to biohackercenter.com, check out the supplements. Like this video and subscribe. And I think we covered a lot of ground, guys. And so take a look at our May offers. 10 May is the discount code at biohackercenter.com. And I think we have some lab tests also. Maybe we have one of the. I'm not sure if we have one of the gut tests yet there, but if not, it's coming there. So you definitely should check.
Nordic labs tests are coming.
Lab tests. They're coming. They're coming. So we will have a lot of different gut tests coming to the store.
Very good tests.
Very good. Very nice. You get good results. Okay. So Thank you very much, everyone, and I wish you an amazing weekend, healthy gut microbiome, and remember that your gut is your second brain, and if you take care of your gut, often your brain functions very well, and the whole system as well. So
all you might develop your humor.
Yeah, you might have.
Not a comedy.
Very good. Thank you very much, everyone, and thank you, Siim and Olli, for joining in.
Yeah, I'll see you around.
Cheerio.
Cheerios.
Thank you. Bye, Siim. Cheese is bad. I just had